Hey guys, this is a long playing review for Gym Power in Mutant Planet on the Amstrad CPC, and a rather cheesy box art cover there. I think they're ripping off a Jean-Claude Van Damme picture actually for the main character Gym Power, and the back of the box there talks a lot about Amiga with lots of amazing things that the Amiga can do which the Amstrad version can't. So ignore the back of the box and the manual for this game because it's mostly crap. And yeah, here's the title screen with some pretty poor music. Bit of a shame on the music actually, because the other versions, like the Amiga and SNES versions, had music from Chris Kulsbeck, who did like the Turrican theme tunes. And we get this really crap repetitive thing here. But no introduction to the game, just this screen, and then we press the fire button to start. We go straight to the game. And this was released by Loriciels in 1992, and it's quite a rare game, and a game that's talked about a lot because it's very, very hard to find. And one of the last ever games released commercially for the Amstrad, and goes for a lot of money on eBay when it does pop up. And it seems to be quite popular really, with some interesting sort of sprites and scrolling, which we'll come back to in a minute. And as you can see, it's a side-scrolling platformer come shoot 'em up. It's sort of fairly standard fare really, but there is some variety in the game. After a few sections we get to do a sort of a Jetpack section, which is kind of like an R-type rip-off, I suppose. Actually, it becomes a bit more of a Turrican 2 rip-off really. Oh, this section here, enemies continually respawn and sometimes drop pickups. This guy here constantly comes back, shoot him, he can get loads of bonus lives. There you go, that's the one-up icon there. All you got to do is pick it up, move left a little bit, wait for him to come back, and you get hundreds of lives. Well, I think you get like a maximum of like, I don't know, 10 lives or something like that. I'm actually going to do this game without losing a life, guys. So a bit pointless me doing this, but I just wanted to show you. And boy, is this game is tough as well. Took a lot for me to do this without losing a life. And on a couple of levels, I think I'll use a snapshot reload. But if I'm being honest with you, because like the jumping mechanics is really broken, and we'll expand on that later. And it makes the game a very frustrating experience. Especially these things that just suddenly pop out the ground at you as well. You get no indication there's going to be some kind of trap or device like that. You often just walk into something as it pops up and you lose a life. Lots of different pickups as well. And we'll go into that in more detail in a little while. Just first, we'll just start with like first impressions of the game really. Right, okay, well we got some really nice sort of sprites. They're well animated. If a bit, the main sprite looks a little bit goofy looking. Looks like he's like permanently shocked with his mouth opened and eyes wide open as well. Oh yeah, we're just picking up some smart bombs. Again, waiting for the enemy to respawn, going back, shooting him, picking them up. I did this on the first level. Later levels, you got a bit of a stricter time limit on the levels as well. Later levels especially. Yeah, so like stock up here. If you stand still long enough, the time, lives, smart bombs, and score, etc. will appear. Oh yeah, and pick up keys to go through certain areas and locked doors. I think this is the end of the level. Seem to be running on nothing there. Well, there's lots of different sections in the game which required a load from tape to disc, and but it only like sort of shows you've got 3 levels, Really, there's about, oh god, how many sections are there? Probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13ish levels or sections really. Here's the first end of level boss. Pretty simple. Shoot him in the head, jump and duck the projectiles, and pretty much the bosses are all pretty much exactly the same. Some are actually easier, with less attack patterns like that. And so he was actually quite tough in comparison to the other bosses. Now, kind of the elephant in the room I haven't really mentioned yet is the scrolling, which is not bad for Amstrad standards. It's relatively smooth for an Amstrad, at least the original 464 or 6128. But we've got this horrible sort of flickering happening at either edge of the screen as you move left or right. Now, I don't know, guys, honestly, whether this is just something that occurs in the emulator I'm using, or if this sort of screen flickering, which doesn't always happen. On some levels it doesn't flicker as much, but I don't know if this happens on a real Amstrad CPC or not. I don't have the game to test. I think it was on eBay recently, actually, and the starting bid was like 70 quid or something. So I don't have it at home to test, and I'm not managed to transfer it to a disc or to like put in my Amstrad at home. But strangely, the scrolling seems to be a little bit better on this level in terms of the flickering on the edges of the screen. Yeah, and another section of the level just loading up here. Yes, so yeah, we were just talking about the sprites and the scrolling there. It's nice and colourful. 16 colour mode, mode 0. Although they've not gone crazy with the colours, they've kept it sort of very simple. Almost 4 colours. Oh, I've just used a smart bomb there to pick up that key, and that opens that door there. Because that bird is annoying to sort of shoot. And for him to like die in the right place and drop the key, because he often drops, if you time it on he will drop that key on the spike. But that's pretty much one of the few places I've used a smart bomb. Oh yeah, don't bother using the smart bomb on the end of level bosses, because it doesn't cause them any damage, just destroys the projectiles. It's a very, very tricky place here to jump over the spikes. You've got to get it just right. There are some pixel perfect jumps you need to do in this game, which is a real problem given the controls are pretty awful in terms of jumping. Oh god, there's quite a bit to talk about, and I keep getting sidetracked because I keep seeing different things happening in the game. This section is an absolute bloody nightmare because, again, pixel perfect jumping needed there. Ugh. Right, well, I want to talk about the jumping and the controls, but I think we're about to move on to the jetpack level. So we'll come back onto the controls and gameplay on these sections in a minute. Yeah, we just picked up a jetpack icon. As you can see, we're zooming up there. It's a bit like Turrican 2, actually. You pick up a jetpack and then you move on to a jetpacky level, just like this, coming up. Oh! Perhaps there's an end of level boss first before we do the jetpack level. I forget. I got pretty bored with this game anyway. So yeah, the boss doesn't do anything, just stands there. You just got these fireballs moving back and forth, and that's it. Yeah, so pretty much shoot him in the top of the chest there. Initially, the bosses look pretty impressive in terms of like the design of them and the sprite, but really they're just static and don't do anything, and a real letdown, really, actually. And we've got to wait for a short load before the boss blows up. So we're on to level 2, and this surely, I think this should be the jetpack level, unless I'm going crazy. Yeah, here's the first jetpack level. There's 2 different jetpack levels. They're pretty much exactly the same, except that there's some slightly different sprites. On the second level, the gun shoots a little bit differently, and these guys take a few less hits. Seems nice we have a little sort of break in the gameplay, with something different to do, like a shoot 'em up. But this is a pretty bog standard kind of shoot 'em up, really. There's no real animation on the main sprite. Enemy sprites are alright. Oh, you can just hold down the fire button here and it'll just continuously shoot the weapon, which is pretty useful. One thing to note, that you do have to destroy each wave of enemies before the next one appears. So if you just try and avoid them, it'll just keep going. They'll just keep appearing until you destroy all 3 enemies, and your time will run out. So you've got to quickly dispatch these as quickly as possible, because the time limit is fairly tight. Run out of time, you only lose a life, and then you just carry on as you were. So not a major deal, but if you're running low on lives, which you probably will be, because this is a goddamn tough game, makes a difference. Can't really hear the music behind all my gun shooting noises, but nice we've got music and sound effects. And some interesting sprite designs here and there. Other than that though, it's just a plain black screen, so boring. Now Jim Power, let's give you a bit of a backstory in the game. Yeah, released by Loriciels in 1992, so one of the last Amstrad games, very rare. Sort of talked about quite a lot on the Amstrad scene, this game. For a long time there wasn't really a working dump of the game, until fairly recently. I think the game crashed after the first level or something, until someone did a proper dump of it. And this is an 8-bit exclusive for the Amstrad, I think. I don't think Jim Power was released on any other 8-bit system. It was released at the time for the Amstrad CPC, Amiga and Atari ST, which is pretty cool for us Amstrad fans. But this does feel rather kind of rushed, if I'm honest with you. The Amiga version was sort of the big showcase for the game, really, of course. Loriciels were very, very proud of all the parallax scrolling they had on the go, and all these other features, which are listed on the back of the box rather proudly, and in the manual, but it's pretty much not present on the Amstrad version. God, like for example, you're supposed to be able to have 8 different weapons. I count 2, or maybe 3 including the Jetpack. Apparently you're supposed to get 2 mega weapons. We've only got the smart bomb, etc, etc. But rather strangely, this game was eventually ported to the Super Nintendo, and yeah, that was renamed a slightly different name. I think it was Jim Power: The Lost Dimension, and it didn't review very well at all. I think it also made a PC MS-DOS as well, and there was a version for the Sega Mega Drive that never got officially released, but I think someone's found the code for the game and made a ROM of it. Both, all versions pretty much reviewed very poorly. It was overly difficult, poor controls, and God, the parallax scrolling was really over the top. Actually, it was really painful on the eyes. Certainly on the SNES version. I was watching the SNES Longplay on YouTube, and it just made my eyes water. But yeah, those versions were ridiculously hard and sort of failed. And I think it was a big attempt by Loriciels to try and break into the 16-bit market and console market properly, by creating this character called Jim Power. But he's really poorly defined, really, like the backstory, who he is. He looks like a generic action hero. on this version's box art. On the SNES version, you can hardly sort of see the character very much. There's not much character behind the character, basically. So if you're trying to build like a gaming icon, like I don't know, Mario or Sonic or a Turrican even, you know, you need to put a little bit more thought into it. And again, it's just a generic platforming shooting up hero, which no one really gives a crap about. And I think Loriciels went all out to try and get this across all formats, especially the SNES and Mega Drive, and I think they pretty much ended up going bankrupt over this game. Can't say for certain, but it was certainly one of the last games they ever did. Yeah, I mean the SNES version came out in 1993. I think they managed to get one more game out in 1994, some Winter Olympics type game for the SNES, before they finally went bust. Shame. Loriciels were a pretty good company, especially for the Amstrad. They had a lot of great games, the Amstrad. Obviously, just to remind you guys, they are a French company, so a lot of you are, you know, UK viewers watching this may not have heard of some of their games, but some games from Loriciels I recommend checking out is 3D Fight, Best of the Best Panzer Kickboxing. That was released on the GX4000 console as well. That was pretty good stuff. Bob Winner's an interesting looking game. Bumpy's Arcade Fantasy, that's another great one from Loriciels. D-Day, I'm going to be looking at that soon, I think. Copter 271, they released for the GX4000 console, not very good though. Infernal Runner's a little favourite of mine, a really gory platformer. They even released a couple of games for the CPC Plus only as well. The Eagle Returns and the aforementioned D-Day. Well, that did work on the normal Amstrad, I think. But yeah, they've done a number of great games actually, Loriciels. Never the greatest games in the world, but often they look really, really good. And some really nice presentation. The presentation on Jim Powell is rather lacking. Although there are some nice graphics here and there. But it's a pretty barren experience though. Nothing in this world entices you in. I'll just use a smart bomb there. Yeah, but as for the backstory of this game, do you know what? I don't really want to read. I don't want to read out the whole story. It's I feel my brain dribbling out my ears. Just how fucking stupid it is. Basically, the president's daughter's been kidnapped by an alien in a different galaxy dimension, 500 million light years away. Blah 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 blah. You're sent to rescue it. Sorry. So yeah, a load of crap. In fact, the manual was rather funny actually. If you want to download the manual from the CPC Power website, it's a really, really bad French to English translation, and half of it makes no sense whatsoever. It's actually pretty immature actually, how the story's been written. As to the programs of this game, oh actually before I come on to that, here's the Devil Boss. Now, on the SNES version, the Devil Boss is actually the final boss. He's the guy that's supposedly kidnapped the president's daughter. And we've rather easily dispatched him there. But it's the other way around on the Amstrad version. We've got a strange giant demon spaceship or something for the final boss. You can only see half of it because the screen doesn't scroll far enough, but there we go. So, yeah. Right, oh god, yeah, the jumping. I haven't really talked a lot about the jumping yet, which is the killer in this game, because it is a platforming game, so you've got to get the jumping controls and mechanics just right. And it's incredibly frustrating, guys. Unless you're playing it for yourself and experiencing it, it's hard to describe, really. Now, if you're running and jumping, you have to make sure you give yourself enough space for the jump to actually happen. This bit especially is incredibly annoying. The amount of times I died on that bit there, guys, right? Because if you're running, you got to give yourself, God, I don't know, a couple of inches on the screen, like sort of space, to make sure there's enough room for him to jump. Otherwise, he'll just run and just fall off and fall straight down. Like there, I had about platform's width there. Did you see that? And that was just enough to do a running jump. Otherwise, you have to get as close as possible to the edge, push up and right. Sort of adjusting myself here. I mean, sometimes you're actually running and he does actually jump after only a short distance. But otherwise, it's this awkward mechanic of like pushing up and pushing, then pushing right, and you don't get as much distance. So some areas, like this bit here, you haven't. A number of times I've died on this little sodding platform here. Now, yeah, we had to just basically get as far as right as possible, without suddenly just falling down to our death in the flames there. Including that little bit there, you have to get the top platform, run right, drop down a little bit and jump. Otherwise, nothing works. So, perhaps, yeah, I'm not explaining things very, very well. You've got to try it for yourself. Trust me, guys, this jump mechanic is broken as hell and very, very frustrating. There's a lot of very stupid deaths. Like you're jumping, you think you're jumping past like sort of some background, like art or whatever. You actually hit your head against it and then suddenly just drop down. But if you jump like a millimetre before where you previously did or after, you jump through it fine. I hate games like that. Again, a section like that is incredibly difficult. Whereas anyone who's a skilled platforming game player, you know, should be able to breeze through this with you know, without any difficulty. But simple little jumps become a real problem. Shame, because it lets the game down quite a lot. And I'm gonna have to mark it down for that, of course. Ah yes, just picked up another jetpack icon. So we're coming up to another jetpack level shortly. I think we'll probably have another boss to fight against here. Yeah, same old attack pattern, just a few fireballs coming out. Jump up, top height of your jump, shoot. You can actually direct yourself while jumping and falling actually, which is pretty handy. So you can push yourself left and right on your fall. But I was going to talk about the programmers. All I know is the programming team are called Phoenix. What I see about them is they were sort of a French public domain sort of freelance group. I may be wrong though, and maybe in another group calling themselves Phoenix or something, but I can't tell you much about that. Graphics were and animations by a guy called Guillaume Dubail. I don't know, but this is the only game he's listed for on the Amstrad. The guy in charge of the project, Christopher Gomez, he's been involved in a few Amstrad games, like Asphalt, Baby Joe Going Home, Tennis Cup 2, that was released for the GX4000. There we go. Not very interesting. Yeah, so this is the second and final like jetpack level. I think they move slightly faster, some of them. They take more hits. You fire different bullets. But just keep your fire button held down and try and clear the wave as quickly as possible. These jetpack levels do go on for too long. They start to get quite tedious actually. could have done a bit more variety on these jetpack levels, but at least these kind of jetpack levels exist just to break up the tedium a little bit. I think you can tell from the tone of my voice, I'm not majorly impressed by Jim Power. Some people on the scene seem to really like this game and really rate it highly. I think they're just getting a little bit excited by, I don't know, some nice animations here and there. And it being one of Loriciels' last games, and it being very rare. But let's be honest, it's an average platformer shoot 'em up. And whilst it's nice to got these jetpack levels, it's still very, very average. And I could have done with some nice presentation here and there, just sort of, I don't know, an actual title screen rather than just the logo and a bit of music and we just go straight in the game. There's no options, can't redefine the keys, I think it's joystick only. The Amstrad version's missing a lot of stuff. And certainly the manual doesn't even correspond to the Amstrad version. So yeah, Amstrad users might feel a little bit neglected here. And it feels like they almost had a good game in the works, but maybe they ran out of time. And Loriciels just said, just release it as it is. Don't worry about the flickering on the edge of the screen for the scrolling. Don't worry about the missing weapons and power-ups. I mean, there's certain pickups in this game, like there's like a blue square pickup, which is supposed to restore sort of life shield points, but you don't have a life shield. When you get hit, you lose a life. So what do they actually do? I think I think they're supposed to protect you from certain projectiles, but there's nothing shooting at you in the game. Just like enemy sprites moving back and forth in a set pattern, really. It's funny how the smart bombs have no effect on the bosses either. But there we go. I'm running out of things to say now. Can you tell? Okay, well, we're not far off the final level. So I'll sum up a bit of a review. Now, I don't know if the jaggedy scrolling is as bad on a real Amstrad CPC or not. So if it is nice and smooth and doesn't flicker on a real Amstrad, add like, I don't know, half a point on my score. But I'd have to give this, if I was being generous, 7 out of 10. No, I think 6.5 out of 10. Give it 7 out of 10 if on a real Amstrad, like I said, some of the scrolling problems are ironed out. But I think, like I say, it goes for a lot of money on eBay. Last I saw, a copy of it was going for a starting bid of about 70ish quid. You'd be pretty gutted if you spent that amount of money, but it's an interesting game to have for your collection anyway. But it's certainly not really worth that value for what you get out of it. Yeah, so there you go, 6.5 out of 10. We're not far off the end of this level. I think I do have about a minute to spare, so about 20-ish seconds worth left. Not much of an ending. It was like an ending screen, guys. With the same music you heard on the title screen. I'll stop my commentary there and let you listen to the music in full. But really, it's only about 20 seconds worth of music, and then just loops around again. Much like the in-game music, which is even more poor. There we go. Yeah, and the sound effects are pretty average as well. But my guess is on this game, guys, they were on the verge of making something quite good, but ran out of time, or were forced to sort of rush it through and get it for sale. This is it, I think. I think this is the final bad guy. Yeah. and he's just the same as all the others. In fact, he's easier than the first level boss. I think he takes maybe a few more hits, and that'll be it. So there we go, guys. Going to leave it here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. 6.5 out of 10. That's him destroyed. Thanks again, guys. See you soon. Cheers. Goodbye.